So art might be entirely subjective, but music is more than just an art. It's also a craft. And like any skill, musicianship can be improved upon, and it can be critiqued. With that in mind, we're going to be checking out some viewer submissions that were submitted over at my Instagram last week. Over 700 people submitted, thank you. And we're gonna be giving our best good faith critiques of their musicianship. We're gonna be teaching them how to get good at music. Our first submission comes from Max Adams, who submitted a bass version of Isn't She Lovely? Let's check it out. Nice bass chords. Sounds great. Okay, looping, adding the bass line in now. All right, very cool, very cool. So it seems like you're taking your arrangement from Victor Wooten's version of Isn't She Lovely? And I love that version. There's a couple of things though I want you to check out about how Victor Wooten plays the notes that he's playing. When he is playing this groove, he is accenting all of the offbeats and articulating them very, very short, and then playing all of the downbeats rather quietly, but articulating them long. That contrast between long, unaccented downbeats and short, accented offbeats helps gives us the feeling of this swung groove. Victor Wooten talks all the time about feeling the groove, but paying attention to these fine details goes a long way to being able to embody it yourself. One other thing that you can learn from Victor Wooten is how he moves his entire body in time with the music. It's subtle, but the movement is coming from the torso, not just the head and not just the feet. When we check out what you're doing, you are tapping your foot, which is good, but I feel like more movement can come from basically the whole body, just to like maybe bounce in your seat. You don't have to go crazy with this, but for me, I feel like the music gets more congealed within my body if I'm bouncing up and down just a little bit. Thank you so much for your submission. Let's check out the next one, which comes from Zoe Camera. All right, let's check out Zoe's. Very 80s fusion, Holdsworth kind of, Alan Holdsworth kind of situation. All right. So I think the same thoughts about subtly moving your body up and down in time will help at least solidify some of the rhythmic ideas that you have. And I think you might need to simplify some of your scalar choices over this vamp, which has two chords which are not in the same key. We have an E major 7, and then we have a G major 7. And I think it would be nice to hear more of that chord progression within the melodic material that you're improvising on your guitar. So, one second. So maybe for the E major 7, you play some E major pentatonic material. Doesn't have to be that complicated, but you want to be able to hear the sound of the chord in your melodies. The same thing goes for the G major 7. Maybe you play some G major pentatonic stuff. That kind of thing. Right now, you're sort of obscuring that sometimes. There was a moment where I heard you play like an E minor pentatonic lick over that E major 7. Like right there. I'm not telling you to not play outside, but I think starting from a simple, clear, and concise melodic palette will do a lot of good here. So thank you so much for your submission. Let's check out the next one, which comes from David OGrady Summer. Very cool. This kind of reminds me of the homework that I would get in jazz counterpoint class with Bob Pilkington when I went to Berkeley. It's kind of amazing how much harmony you can get from just two voices. Like we start in kind of C minor territory, and then A minor 6, E flat, A flat 7, solving to D flat, A flat, E flat major 7 to F major 7. All of that communicated with just two voices, kind of crazy. You know, in an age with like 5,000 Logic Pro tracks or whatever, harmony is very inexpensive, and it's nice to see it being used very frugally here. Oh, hey, Adam from the editing booth here. No shade to Jacob Collier. He's amazing. Just wanted to clarify that. My critique is, it sounds like a homework assignment. You'd get an A on this homework assignment, but I want to hear it develop. You can say so much more with this idea. You start in C minor, go to A minor, go to F, maybe you go to C sharp minor after that. Or maybe D flat major, I don't know, or you already went to D flat major. Anyway, a lot of stuff to be explored. Thank you so much for submitting. This one is from Sacha Lubitsch. Let's check them out.
Baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little.
Wait a second. That was a, that's not a B flat 7, that's a B7.
My mind just a little.
How dare you? All right, sorry. Being a dick.
A little. So why don't you just meet me in the middle?
Nice.
In the middle. Oh, baby. Why don't you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little.
Okay, very nice.
So why don't you just meet me in the middle?
Back to G, okay, cool.
In the middle.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think this song is really good for reharmonization because it centers mainly around the 5th of the key, in this case B, so you could go back and forth between E major and E minor, and the B would fit perfectly well in both keys. I'm thinking that you could probably simplify some of this stuff, like this A7, D7, C7, F minor 7, add 4 situation.
Middle. I'm losing my.
You might get away with half that number of chords. If I was reharmonizing this, I might have the same chord progression for both sections of the melody, not switch it halfway through. Even though that switch to an E major 7 was quite nice, I feel like having a lot of harmonic information takes a little bit of time to fully digest, and by repeating it, you might legitimize. And by repeating it, you might legitimize it. So the second time you hear the chords, you might try orchestrating it a little bit differently. Maybe it's just guitar and voice for the first time, and then you add the full band for the second time hearing the same chords. But I really dug it, so thank you so much for submitting. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so this one was submitted by Utsav from the band The Lost Cassette. Andalusian Indian fusion. Spanish vibe. The title is very cool. That rhythmic unison though is a very, very Indian thing. Super, super cool, interesting, I love it. The texture of the tablas works extremely well with acoustic guitar. I mean, we've known that for a long time with like the collaboration between Zakir Hussain and John McLaughlin Shakti. But this particular fusion of like, you know, more Spanish Phrygian kinds of sounds, it works, I love it. I could use a lot more bass guitar in the mix. Of course, you might not be able to like control the mix because this is a so far sounds. But one of the things that I've noticed whenever I've played with tabla players, which is very infrequently, is the fact that since tablas are pitched and there's different tones that you make with the tabla, the mid-range frequency is very similar to the mid-range frequencies that the bass guitar produces. So there's always gonna be some weird clash there. I'm not sure what the best solution is, to be honest, maybe just being very conscious of it and really trying to stay away from the tabla player if you're the bass player, but it is something that I was noticing here. Super cool, thank you so much for submitting. Let's check out the next one, which will be from Shams Ali Riaz, playing Sequence Start, which is a piece of music that I wrote. Super cool. Distorted tone, very nice. So great job, you're 75% there. Obviously the question is how you get to the full 100% speed, which is a lot faster. Originally I actually couldn't play it at speed, and the recording was like some Frankenstein take of like a million versions of me just like failing over and over and over again. Now I can actually play it. Ha! I can barely play it, and the reason why I can play it a little bit better than I used to is because I adopted strict alternating in my right hand. I always alternate between index and middle finger, no matter what, which poses some problems because the piece is in quintuplets, and quintuplets are odd numbers, and this is an even number of fingers. So it alternates which finger starts the group of quintuplets every time. It sounds like it's gonna be harder, and in the beginning it actually is to strictly alternate no matter what, even with these quintuplets. But over the long run, that definitely helped me get it a lot cleaner and a lot more comfortable. Just apply that strict alternating to your playing and sequence start, and you'll be able to play it at speed in no time. Okay, so next victim is Nyree Joseph, who is a steel drums player who is improvising over St. Thomas. Let's check this out. Blues licks. Whole tone scale on steel drums. Burning. Quoting the melody. Chromatic scale. Dang, that was super cool. I know what steel drums can do in jazz. I was a huge fan of Jaco Pastorius's Word of Mouth album. And Jaco was really big into incorporating steel drums into jazz music, but to see somebody do it, it's pretty awesome. I guess my advice is to try and transcribe some modern jazz saxophone players, like maybe Chris Potter or Michael Brecker. Knowing what you can do on steel drums, hearing how modern jazz saxophone players apply that jazz vocabulary in different ways might give you some interesting ideas. I know as a bass player, I get the most ideas from saxophone players and horn players, not other bass players when I'm looking to play melodically and improvise. It's always looking to other instruments when you're delving into this vocabulary that I have found the most inspiration. But that was awesome, man. Thank you so much for submitting. All right, so let's check out Celia and Ihnen. There we go. Hey, there are 4 of you. All right. It's really close interval chords without vibrato. It's really pretty. That was really pretty. I think the thing that would take this to the next level is experimenting a little bit more with dynamics. What if you added some swells, like some crescendos and decrescendos? I think more attention and care put into dynamics and some kind of arc with the dynamics will make this piece feel even more vibrant than it is already. Attention to detail like dynamics and other things like articulation are really the things that I feel like make music come alive. They'll show your personality, and they're the things that make you feel connected to the music. Those are the things that really give music its juice. And you know, that's what we really want. Juicy music. So thank you for your submission. Let's check out the next one. Oh no. Microtonal jazz hip hop from Alberto della Pietra. What have I done? Oh God. All right, let's do it. Oh no. Quintuplet swing, of course. Going back and forth between the 2 keyboards tuned a quarter tone apart. It's like Maroon 5's Sunday Morning, but really weird. So goofy. So it seems like what you guys are doing are just playing 2-5-1s in the key of D major, but every second chord is a quarter tone sharp, which is funny, and I appreciate the meme potential for all of this. These sunglasses are a very nice touch. I've had the most luck with this kind of system with chords resolving down by a quarter tone. Maybe you take the tritone substitute for A7, which would be an E flat 7. Hold up, let me retune that real quick. E flat 7, and resolve it to D major 7. There's a clearer if-then with the microtonality in that case. So even though the joke is funny, kind of like how polytonality was initially a joke, there might be some potential to take this into some interesting musical places. So thank you for your submission. All right, the next one comes from, I'm actually gonna compare two entries because I think it's kind of interesting. There's a band from Armenia, and then there's a band from Long Island, and they both submitted things in 5/8. The way that they approached 5/8 is so different, and I just want to listen back to them. So this is the Long Island band. The camera work. You hear that 5/8 though. Da, 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 da. While the drummer is like really going in and playing the punk like 16ths, the rest of the band is playing an 8th note sort of situation. This is the band from Armenia. So that da 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 da. Same groove, but a very different feeling there. Even though the grooves are kind of the same, the cultural backgrounds of the musicians are very different, and they're bringing a very, very different feeling to the same basic idea and the same basic genre. I know this isn't really a critique for these two bands, so I'm sorry, but I just wanted to show that, and I found that interesting. Anyway, let's keep going on. This one is from Olli Pajanen. All right, gent. That's what the kids are listening to these days. We got that gnarly dark glass tone. Love it. All right. Some of that jazz. So the playing's great, you got the tone dialed in for the gent section, but I think for that more fusion-y section, it might be nice to switch to a slightly different tone, something with a little bit less grit and a little bit more low mids. Those Ibanez sound gears are fantastic for that kind of mid-rangey, fusion-y growl. Part of that would involve switching back and forth between pick and fingers, because that fusion tone is a little tricky to get with a pick, so just something to keep in mind. You definitely have the metal tone totally dialed in. I just think that you could spend some time with the fusion-y side of the tone. So anyway, thank you for your submission, and yeah, let's do another one. This is Kristian Mitchum, and this is them playing bass over Little Sunflower. Let's check that out. Okay, got the diminished licks, very important. Okay, so my big suggestion for you is I want you to transcribe what it is that you just played. Be very specific. And I bet you'll find that very difficult, because the way that you're thinking about music right now is in terms of the scales and the licks that you're playing, and not actually thinking about how they fit within the rhythmic grid. The way that my friend Sean Crowder, drummer extraordinaire for Sungazer, puts it is, it doesn't sound like you're being responsible for the rhythms. You clearly can physically play these notes, but can you place them? That's gonna take your playing to the next level. Placing them within a grid is very important here. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this episode of How to Get Good at Music has inspired you. If you want to be kept in the loop about when the next one of these episodes is being filmed, definitely follow me over at Instagram, because that's where I'm going to announce it. If you enjoy what I do here on this channel, please consider joining my Patreon, because it's the patrons over at my Patreon that allow me to make this kind of content week after week. And I am very much indebted to everybody who has donated over there. So thank you so much to all of my patrons and all of my viewers like you guys. And yeah, stay safe, everybody. Peace.